Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we've got some stuff coming up on the horizon. We got some trailers to go over and on beat, including the Netflix drop event, which hit YouTube and released a bunch of trailers and reveals and clips and stuff. And then we also got some WGA strike news. And then in full spoilers, we're going to be talking about The Flash. Last week we said we weren't sure what we were going to talk about, but we decided that The Flash was out now on HBO Max, or just Max now, I guess. So might as well get to that. But let's kick things off with On the Horizon. On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next week or so. And we got a few things coming up. On Tuesday, October 3rd, Disgaea 7, Vows of the Virtueless is coming out on PC, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. On Wednesday, October 4th, Chucky Season 3 is debuting on SyFy and USA, and then coming a day later on the 5th on Peacock. So,
wow, they actually remembered their streaming service existed this year. That's amazing.
We talked about that before, remember? Not just with Chucky, but there was that other, the Reginald the Vampire show. We were talking about how so weird the way they were, like, ignoring.
As far as I know, like, Season 2 still is on Peacock?
I think it's on Peacock now.
I know Season 1 is for sure.
I think I saw something that said new season. So either they're promoting that the third season's coming up, or they have the second season now.
Yeah, they should be playing the second season up, is what I say. Like, yeah, it looks like they finally put Season 2 up, because, I just looked at it. So, yeah, it's there now. Yeah, because, like, I don't think it was there as of, like, last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy. Like, I don't understand that at all, why they did that with the first two seasons.
There's some weird stuff going on with streaming services.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good with Season 3 that it's going to be streaming the next day now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely, if you haven't seen it, the show is absolutely bonkers in, like, all the best ways. It's if you're a fan of the Child's Play films and, like, the whole series, there's so much, like, fan service and stuff. You're gonna love it, for sure.
Speaking of the next day, on Thursday, October 5th, Loki is coming to Disney Plus, Season 2.
Oh, yes. Gotta watch that. Sure.
Yeah, got some stuff coming up, man.
Yeah.
Also on Thursday, October 5th, Our Flag Means Death comes to Max.
Yep, so Season 2 of that.
Another good one. And then Assassin's Creed Mirage comes to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X.
Yes.
Then
Assassin's Creed.
Then the next day on Friday, October 6th, Pet Sematary Bloodlines comes to Paramount Plus. We're getting into spooky season.
Yep.
Totally Killer, which is a Amazon Prime movie, comes out on Friday, October 6th as well. It's like a time travel slasher comedy, about a girl. She goes back in time and like a bunch of her mom's friends and stuff had been killed by some serial killer. And then she like goes back in time and encounters her mom as a teenager and all the people that are going to be
It's Back to the
killed.
Future meets Halloween.
Yeah. And it's a horror comedy. It stars Kristen Shipka from Sabrina and Julie Bowen, who was in Lost and also in Modern Family, and Randall Park, who is a favorite of mine always. He's the police officer from Ant-Man that learned the card trick.
Yeah. He played Jim on The Office. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that's coming to Amazon Prime on Friday, October 6th. Then Detective Pikachu Returns, also coming on Friday, October 6th to Nintendo Switch. This is the second game, right? This isn't like a remake of the first one or something?
No, this is this is a full-on sequel to the first Detective Pikachu.
Cool. You excited? You're the resident Pokemon fan here.
I don't know. I didn't even play the first one.
So I guess that's a no.
Yeah.
Then also on Friday, October 6th, The Exorcist Believer comes to movie theaters. And The Royal Hotel also comes to movie theaters. That is with Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick. And it's a horror film that takes place or a thriller that takes place like in an Australian pub.
Okay.
But yeah, that is what is coming up on the horizon. Next up is our news segment on Beat. On Beat, as I mentioned, is our news segment. Today we've got some trailers to go over. We got Netflix had an event called Drop. It's another digital event they've tried on YouTube. And there we have some WGA strike news. So let's kick off with the trailers, the non-Netflix Drop trailers. So the first one, oddly enough, feels like it should have been in the Netflix Drop, but it came a few days before. And that is Onimusha, the Onimusha series. I think the one thing that really blew me away, I think the trailer is just really well done. It's really well cut and stuff, but the one thing that really grabbed my attention was just one person's name, and that is Takashi Miike, who is a really prolific Japanese filmmaker, does a lot of really fucked up horror films and stuff. He has a huge influence on Suda 51. He's actually in No More Heroes 3. Takashi Miike is in that game, as himself. So, yeah, that got my attention more than anything else. I never played the original games, but that got my attention. It also got my attention that I didn't know, maybe this isn't the case, but that the main character is Miyamoto Musashi, who's a really famous sword fighter from Japan.
Right,
and
yeah.
I've read, there's a famous biography about him that I've read, and stuff. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was somehow in the Onimusha universe, but that's cool and interesting.
Yeah. It looks great. I never played any of the Onimusha games, so I'm not super familiar with the story or anything. As an anime, it looks fantastic. My question is it is kind of weird that they're making an Onimusha anime when it's a game franchise that outside of a more modern remaster of the first game that did not sell too well. It was a franchise that was born and died on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And was not continued past that generation.
Yeah.
And there are no announced plans for more Onimusha. So it's kind of weird that there's an anime, but yeah, I guess it looks good though.
Yeah.
Looks fine. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks pretty cool. Next, we got a trailer for Scavenger's Reign, which is a new animated property for Amazon.
Yeah. Looks very trippy. Looks like a very psychological horror.
Yeah. It has a very Japanese horror vibe to it, but it's not Japanese. It's not anime.
No.
But it has a very
Japanese
vibe. There's something where a little creature attached to something else and then just kind of blended into it or something. And I'm that's very Japanese psychological horror. Body, their version of body horror, I'm that's pretty interesting. And it had some really cool looking settings and stuff as well.
Right, yeah.
A lot of animated stuff getting advertised. Then we got a trailer for Obliterated. I think we covered this a while ago when this was first announced. And it's basically about a special forces team that thinks they stopped a bomb from going off and leveling Las Vegas, and to celebrate they just get wrecked. And then in the midst of being just completely wrecked, completely off their gourd, high, drunk, everything, they find out that actually the bomb is still there and they need to find it and deactivate it. And that's where the double entendre of the title comes from, because they're obliterated.
Yeah, it's a really dumb premise. It looks really dumb. If this was a movie, this would probably be fine for a comedy. Probably be fine for 2 hours of that. But this is a series. I'm not watching hours and hours of this dumb shit. Come on, no way.
Yeah, you can't watch hours and hours of dime store Chris Hemsworth.
Right, yeah. Yeah, just being, like, incompetent idiots, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just not, like, into it at all.
This is the kind of thing I'm gonna check out, and, like, probably based on the first episode, you'll know immediately if it's worth watching.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's
is this
definitely
funny?
one of those
Does it
things.
land, or is it not,
Right, yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, like, you'll know immediately if you vibe with it.
But I do agree with you. It seems like it would have worked better as a movie rather than a TV series. It's a very small premise,
Yeah, that's a very, very thin premise.
And then lastly, we got a trailer for True Detective Night City. The first trailer was just kind of okay. It really wasn't doing much for me. This trailer's much more channeling the True Detective kind of vibe. That kind of like weird, spooky, almost like, is there something supernatural going on? I don't know, but something's weird, It's got that kind of vibe going on here in this one that interested me, of course. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it had to do, I think, with the soundtrack too. The soundtrack in the trailer is phenomenal. Like, it just fits. It's creepy. And then what really got me was towards the end, there's like a shot of them going into like an ice cave or something. And I'm like, oh, it's just cool settings. We need more cool settings and stuff that we don't see all the time. And ice caves is it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It looks good. It looks all right. I really have like a strong reaction to it either way.
Let's hope this is more season 1 or season 3 and not season 2.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the hope there.
Yeah. And that's it for the regular trailers. Next, Netflix had an event on YouTube. It's called Netflix Drop. And I tuned in about 15 minutes late, but you can scrub back and start at the beginning. And to my surprise, the event just starts with them streaming the entire first episode of Castlevania Nocturne. I'm like, oh, is this a clip? No, it's still going.
That's
the whole episode.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that they were like doing an early airing of like the first like episode of Nocturne. Of course, they
end up doing the first 3.
Oh wow! So like on the stream, and you can't rewatch the stream, so like you had to watch it live.
No, so here's the funny thing. So basically what they did is they did the first 3 episodes of Castlevania Nocturne. They did the first one right away, and then after that, they had this weird thing it looks like a fighting game select thing, and it was like jumping around like randomly to the different squares, like selecting a character, and the characters were all blacked out, and then it would land on one of the squares, and it would go like new character or something, and it would reveal like a trailer for another series or something, or it would be another episode of Castlevania, or they did one that was like about merchandise that they were selling, and another one that was like, animated stuff that's already on Netflix that you can check out. So they kind of had all those different things, but they had new trailers for a bunch of stuff. They had an old trailer for Pluto, which we'd already talked about. That's the Astro Boy kind of remake, the gritty Astro Boy remake anime.
Oh, yeah.
They had like a trailer for that, but it was the same trailer as the old trailer, so we didn't add that to our list. But they had trailers for Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft, which was announced now as a animated series. Masters of the Universe Revolution, which I'm not sure, like, there's been like 6 He-Man things on Netflix. I have no idea what's going on with that.
Isn't this the same thing? Just, this is a continuation of Revelation.
Is this the same thing that, like, the Kevin Smith one, basically?
Yes. Yeah, okay. It is. Yeah.
See, like, I have no idea.
Unless they hired, like, the exact same animators and, like, replaced everybody else, but no, yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay, so then that's the next chapter in the Kevin Smith He-Man saga. They showed a clip or a short trailer teaser thing for Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
They had a trailer for something called Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix. It's like some kind of an Ubisoft thing.
You heard of the game like Far Cry Blood Dragon?
Wasn't that like a DLC for like Far Cry 4 or something like that?
Yeah, that was like sort of like I don't know, like it's not DLC because you can play it standalone. You can purchase it and play it standalone, but yeah, it was like kind of like a DLC like spin-off offshoot of Far Cry 4.
It's one of those DLCs where it
was one of those things
completely
where like
ignores the original concept of the game and reimagines everything, kind of like the Zombies Red Dead Redemption thing.
Right, yeah. It was meant to be like Cyberpunk and like really like batshit or something. I mean, this came out long before Cyberpunk game, obviously. Yeah. But like, it's funny because, like, I was like, okay, yeah. And then, like, but I literally wasn't expecting to see Raymond in this. I was like, okay, Raymond's like a news broadcaster. That's insane. I was like, all right.
This is done by, I think it's Artie Sankar, he did Castlevania. He's the guy that brought Castlevania to Netflix in the first place.
He's the producer of brought Castlevania. He's also involved with Devil May Cry on Netflix, which we got teaser for.
Yes, we got a teaser for Devil May Cry.
Again, just the teaser. It was like, oh, yep, that's Dante, and then it ends.
That's coming. It's just music and Dante, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And then we got a trailer for Blue Eye Samurai, which is coming from Michael Green, who was one of the co-showrunners on American Gods in its first season. And he's done a bunch of stuff. He did the what was the Blade Runner, was it 2047? The more recent Blade Runner movie. Like, he wrote that, and he's the kind of guy that, like, you'll just see his name all the time. Like, there'll be like some trailer for something and it's like written by, and it's like Michael Green, you know? He gets around is what I'm saying. But
right, yeah.
We got a new one there, and it seems to be about like a girl who is like in Japan who's like a victim, or like her mom was a victim of a rape by a white man, and now she's like trying to push the white men out of Japan or something. That's kind of what I got from the trailer.
Oh, yeah, that's what I got from it too. I don't know.
Interesting. We'll have to see if, I want to see some more of this before I like commit to it, but it looks interesting.
Right, yeah.
Any of these trailers like really hit it home for you? You're all Tomb Raider, man. Tomb Raider.
I mean, Tomb Raider looks fine. I mean, yeah, I mean, they all look fine so far. I would say no, but they all look like something I would watch. Like, I would check out, like, all these shows, to be honest. Well, except for Obliterated. I think I kind of made up my mind on that. But, like, the rest I definitely check out, because they all look interesting in their own ways.
Mm-hmm. It's also interesting, it's worth noting that we mentioned 6 trailers in the Netflix drop thing, and 3 of them are video game adaptations.
Yeah, Netflix is going in on the video game adaptations, I guess, since Castlevania did so well for them.
Yeah.
They're going in on that.
Are they supposed to be doing like a God of War game too, or a God of War like animated thing as well?
I haven't heard anything about anime. I think they're doing God of War live action for Amazon. Is what I heard.
That's even crazier.
Yeah.
But yeah, Netflix is doing a lot of stuff. I've brought this up before, and every time I do this with like in front of other people, they hate on me because it's, I'm talking about game streaming. But this is why I think Netflix is uniquely positioned if they wanted to do game streaming. Because I think they don't really have to do like a huge catalog. They could do stuff that ties into their current library, you know?
Yeah. Actually, a little footnote, and I'm kind of surprised that the Tomb Raider animated is on Netflix, because Amazon is investing heavily in Tomb Raider as a franchise. Amazon has a live action Tomb Raider series in the works. Amazon has also purchased from Embracer the publishing rights to the next Tomb Raider video game. And Amazon is betting big on Tomb Raider being a huge IP.
This wouldn't be the first time that Amazon's had like a weird complex IP rights thing going on.
Right.
I mean, Lord of the Rings is a perfect example where the rights for that were basically bought by another company like right after they bought the rights to do Lord of the Rings. And now like there's going to be other Lord of the Rings properties unrelated to the Amazon one. You know, it's Amazon gets themselves into weird rights situations, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
But
there's a funny footnote to that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it for the Netflix drop event. But we also got a little bit of exciting news. It's not completely settled yet, but it looks like the WGA strike is set to end. There's a tentative deal that's been reached. Now what has to happen now is it has to go back to the union, and they have to vote on it.
Yes. But the WGA has ordered that, all writers are to immediately resume working. Mm-hmm. And that means all writing has resumed. The first thing, the most immediate effect is the late night shows are coming back. They've all announced they're coming back on Monday.
Last week tonight, we're going to be getting that again. All the other late night shows are going to be getting back. Yeah, it's stuff is coming back. The issue still at play is that actors are still on strike.
Yes, Screen Actors Guild.
I think that's going to wrap much quicker.
I think it will. There hasn't been any movement on that yet. Like the Screen Actors Guild put out that the AMPTP. I think that's the.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I was like, oh man, I hope I remember all those letters.
I think it's American Motion Picture Television Producers.
Yes. The Screen Actors Guild, or SAG, has said like they haven't reached out to the guild. You know, there's no meeting scheduled.
Yeah, they haven't initiated their
yet.
Actual talks yet.
Yes, there's nothing. So again, like nothing's going to happen on that end until the studios, you know, decide to sell things, which I think they will, because, you know, it really depends. I mean, again, it's a different situation with the actors, because again, they have their own concerns with their own contract, and like it's about what the studios are willing to give.
A completely different AI issue.
Yeah, there's another AI issue. So I mean, so it's hard to say like how quickly that will wind down. I think it's easy to look at that and say, yeah, like the studios are defeated or deflated and they want to get back to business. But again, this is all on the studios. They're the ones who can end this.
Yeah.
I don't think
it'll take too long. The actors' strikes usually don't last as long as the writers' strikes. The writers just have less power.
Yeah, they have
than actors do.
And from what I read, like I haven't like read everything, because like there's a lot of stuff in there, and half of it like I don't comprehend because like I'm not in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But it from a glance and from like reading like some layman's like takes, and reading like from people like online, like involved with the Writers Guild, it seems like they managed to get a pretty excellent deal. And it seems like they managed to get a lot of what they wanted.
Yeah.
From what I was looking at, it sounds like it's been a huge victory for the writers.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yes, and I am so happy to see that.
Yes, definitely. But that is it for our news segment, and that leaves only full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are going to be talking about The Flash. This is the love project of Ezra Miller, who had quite a few issues.
We won't discuss that.
Yeah, we're going to avoid
here.
that aspect.
Yeah,
but
that's kind of like outside the movie itself, so.
Yeah, I saw The Flash a while ago in theaters, maybe a month or two ago. You finally got a chance to watch it. What are your thoughts?
I want to get your thoughts first.
So it's weird because all of the pre-release, like there was so much hype coming out pre-release, all the people saying this is one of the best superhero movies ever made and everything.
Yes.
And then I didn't watch it right away. So then like immediately after release, it was all like fan reactions saying, oh, this is the worst comic book movie ever made. So you had this kind of like weird thing where it went through like this
kinda
huge
like
overhype
whiplash.
and then huge underhype, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think it's a fine movie. I think the special effects in a lot of cases, not every case, but in a lot of cases are just flat out garbage.
They were bad. They were really bad.
Like it's shockingly bad.
The worst example is the
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. I mean, look fake CGI as hell. No, the worst example was actually the opening set piece, the hospital and the babies. Like the babies look fake as hell. Like they just like CGI. They had CGI babies, and you could tell they were CGI babies. They did not look like they were alive. And so like the big problem is you're supposed to like be emotionally connecting to this, like, oh man, these babies are in peril and the Flash needs to like save them. It's hard to emotionally connect to that when like they look like computer generated fake like
dolls.
demons. Yeah, they looked like dolls. They looked like, it was like, it just like, what? Like, it was not good.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much throughout the whole movie. There's tons of like really bad social. There's some good stuff too. There's some good CG stuff going on too, which just makes it stand out even more. Like when you see stuff that's just so bottom of the barrel, absolute garbage tier CG, like the worst I've seen in a feature film in like 20 years bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And then people at Warner Brothers were coming out saying, oh, it's supposed to look like that. And it's I understand stylism, like doing something for a stylistic effect and stuff, but come on. Like, Nick Cage was not supposed to look like that.
Right, yeah. Do something for a stylistic effect, but when it distracts from your movie, like, that's a bad stylistic choice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if it's a stylistic choice, it's a bad choice.
Yes.
It just really felt like an incomplete movie. Like you were watching it and like you were at right when it was finished that somebody was gonna run up to you with a clipboard to ask you questions and reassure you that the special effects shots are still being worked on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Like they accidentally released like a first cut of the film.
Yeah,
like a preview
test screening cut. Yeah,
exactly. Like that's what it felt like. Overall, like, it obviously isn't the best superhero movie ever made. It just isn't, but it's not a total dumpster fire either. Like, come on, like Wonder Woman 84 was worse than this. Like,
oh yeah.
Like this was fine. For the most part, the movie is perfectly fine. It's got some funny moments. It's got,
which already makes it better than Batman v Superman.
Yeah. It's got some decent set pieces. I'm not gonna say that it has a great set pieces, because it doesn't. It's fine, but it's weirdly, like, uneven, too. Like I said, like, a lot of the jokes, there are a lot of jokes in here that are funny, but then there are, like, some that don't land at all and are just terrible. The CGI is terrible. I don't think, like, the action really delivers, like, at all.
Yeah, a good example.
Like, fight is, like, just a huge, like, nothing of a fight, of a sequence.
A good example is in the scene where they free Supergirl and she's fighting. Not only is it just like, it's just very obvious CG. Like, it's just like they didn't even film. It's like they didn't even try to film any action. They just scanned the actors and did the whole thing in CG, and it just looks really fake. And it's like the choreography of the fight looks kind of cool. Like when Batman like lowers his hand and you see her, like all that stuff's cool.
It's
but then
juxtaposed,
the fight
right? Because
so
like
fake.
right before that, you had Batman taking out all those guards, and it was great. It was fantastic. Like watching Batman work and like, him ping-ponging like his Batarang. That was a great fight sequence, and then you followed that up with Supergirl sequence, and it was terrible. It was like, it was just like really bad CG.
It's like usually you can tell like, okay, this is where they put in the CG, this is where they used a stunt double, this is where they did some practical effects, and you can kind of like put together the full image, and it, if you can suspend your disbelief a little bit, it's fun to watch. But like, it just seemed like the entire fight had nothing real in it, in the entire thing. Like the entire thing was just CG. Like, it kind of reminded me of like the third Matrix movie, the fight with Agent Smith, where it just looked really fake. Like him and Neo fighting, and just like cloth doesn't move like that, like it just doesn't look right, like it's the exact same thing that was happening here,
Yeah, exactly.
About the same visual quality too.
Yeah.
Meaning it looked like a 20-year-old movie, is what I'm saying. Yeah. It just had so many issues with that. Like you said, though, there are some funny bits. There are some fun parts. Some of that is, can be a little distracting when kind of some of the troubles that this movie's had and its star has had.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still like a pretty fun movie through and through. Like I don't think I was ever really bored in the course of the movie.
No, yeah. I can't say like I was like ever bored by the movie.
Which puts it ahead of like Batman v Superman or Justice League to me. Either cut of Justice League, by the way.
Oh yeah. And I also I think that has a lot to do with like the pacing of the film, which it gets through its beats like really quick.
Yeah. I think the best thing about this entire movie, hands down, is a version of Batman, Michael Keaton's version of Batman.
Yes.
Who I think is fantastic. And as much as he's used, still relatively underused for my taste. He was very entertaining, and then when they get into the big fight towards the end, he kind of quickly becomes the least important character.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which was a little unfortunate. But in general, I thought he was great. I loved the scene where they went into his house and he's just like bearded and hippie haired and like climbing on the counters after them.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
He's just like feral Bruce Wayne.
Where he's like, he's like very, very, very handily, like, like beating on Barry, and then like, other Barry who like has powers now is just like dodging everything effortlessly. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty funny sequence. Like I said, yeah, like the movie's full of good sequences. One of the big things I came to it was like, I don't, it's like, I don't think the film like ends up like really having a point. Like
no, not really. I mean,
no.
I thought that they did a good job on the emotions of the scene with Barry and his mother at the end, those kind of stories always hit me. So I think they hit the emotion right and stuff, but they didn't do enough to like in the actual writing to say why that was so important, it was emotional just cause but it's like, it feels kind of like emotional yet somehow unearned at the same time. I don't know if that's like the best way I think I can explain it. It's just, I know the Barry Allen story about his mom dying and stuff. And I think they did it really well in those moments, in those scenes, but they just didn't like do a good job of justifying it for its own movie, for its own merits. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, no, like I agree with the ideas. Like I agree with the idea that universe that he created was just doomed and there was nothing he could do about that. Like that's fine, but like there has to be like some sort of victory in the end. And like, I guess like this movie's like idea of that was like he ends up exonerating his dad, but like there just felt like there had to be like something gained from the entire thing, like other than like the realization that like he shouldn't have been messing around with time, which but like the ending is he manages to exonerate his dad, get his dad released, and then he meets George Clooney. And it's like, it's a big joke, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just not satisfying.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the kind of the effect it had, is just it ends with him. And he meets George Clooney Batman, and then one of his teeth falls out,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of the idea is like, oh, in the end, he still fucked it up. He still has a lot of things he fucked up in this universe,
Yeah, he still messed up the timeline, but...
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess... It's just so complicated talking. This movie was supposed to come out so long ago. Its original iteration. It went through like, I think, multiple directors. It went through like all sorts of rewrites. It got delayed to even go into production. Then it finally went into production. And by the time it's like, okay, it's almost out. Then like, the DCEU got canceled and James Gunn's new universe was coming in. And it's like, oh geez, like how do you even keep up? I mean, a lot of these other movies like Shazam 2 or Black Adam and stuff, they kind of feel like pointless now when you watch them, but like at the same time they feel like a complete movie, whereas this feels like it's like leading somewhere, but they don't quite know how to properly lead it there because everything was in flux.
Yeah, exactly. And then by the time the movie
it seems like it would have been a good opportunity to do a hard reset in the movie with like a couple reshoots,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It just seemed like they didn't know what to do, and like there were several different endings planned for this. There was an ending where like he was going to like, I guess, leave the courthouse after exonerating his dad, and Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne and Supergirl was going to be there.
Yeah, there's photos from the set when they filmed that.
Yeah. Signaling like that like they're still in the version of the universe that he created when he like reverses the decision to save his mother. They're still in like that universe and alive. That got scrapped because, I guess like they weren't going to continue with those characters. And then like there was another version that was going to have, it was still going to have Michael Keaton and Supergirl, but like also like, Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot, who was in the movie earlier, were also going to show up at the end. Mm-hmm. And I guess that got scrapped because and I guess that was because, they were still considering, like, bringing Henry Cavill back, and then, like, that got scrapped, I read, because, like, by the time, like, they were ready to release the movie, they weren't going to go ahead with any more Henry Cavill in DC, and that led to the current ending we have with George Clooney, which was basically a joke, like I read by, James Gunn and Peter Safran, who were basically joked, how many Batmen can we get in this movie?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And then with all of the stuff they could have done with the setup for a swap over on the DC universe, instead we get a post-credit scene with Aquaman that was just completely unnecessary and did nothing.
It was just pointless.
Might be the worst post-credit scene I've ever seen.
Yes.
Because there are ones that are even more pointless, but they're funny in their pointlessness. This instead is set up like there's a point to it, and there isn't.
No.
It just makes it a horrible post-credit scene. They have not mastered the art of the post-credit scene.
No. It's the only time Jason Momoa shows up in the film. It's funny because, like, including the post-credit sequence, like, everybody except two people from the Justice League film show up in this movie. And we know the two people, and we know the reasons why they're not here. So.
Yeah. It's just, it's disappointing. It feels like they could have done more here. What's another thing is Iris West. Why did they even have her character in this movie at all?
Yeah, she was pointless. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess she was there because, she's part of, like, the supporting cast, and obviously, like, she might have gotten a bigger role had they done a sequel to this. But yeah, as it stands, she was totally pointless.
Yeah.
She doesn't even show up in, like, the alternate, like, reality that he creates. There's no scene where he runs into, like, alternate reality Iris West or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Who's like, or like explore, like, how she's different in this new version. She's just not there at all for, like, the entirety of the movie, except for the beginning and the end.
They barely even touch on the relationship between Barry and Iris.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, okay.
Just that, like, they're interested in each other. That's it.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what this comes down to. I mean, you said totally pointless. I think that kind of sums up a lot of the movie in general.
Yeah.
And that sounds worse than it actually is because, like I said, I was never bored watching the movie. It's worth watching. It's fun. There's stuff that you can enjoy because it's actually good and funny or fun or adventurous, And then there's stuff that you can enjoy just because it's funny to look at how bad some of the CG is and stuff, So you got, like, both of those aspects going for it, kind of the intentional and the unintentional as far as, like, humor and fun goes. But it just feels like what was the point? Like, why did I even go to see this? And that's the same thing I think that is just the case with all the DC stuff now. We just need the start of the actual DC universe. We need the Superman movie.
Yeah.
We need to see what's the actual, like, plot that matters, None of these movies are really good enough to stand alone. None of these are like The Batman, where The Batman ended up being a really good movie that's completely disconnected from any of the DCU plans, and it doesn't matter that it's disconnected because it's really good and it's doing its own thing. None of these movies, and by these movies I'm talking about the later version DCEU stuff. So I'm talking about Black Adam, Shazam, The Flash, and I'm sure Aquaman 2 is going to fit in there as well, and maybe Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle looks like it might be a little bit better. I don't know. But,
yeah.
Actually, no, wait, I already saw Blue Beetle, so.
Okay, yeah.
I forgot I'd seen Blue Beetle, so.
So, did he, James Gunn's comments on the future of the DCU today?
Oh, he made new comments? I haven't heard that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He posted on his Instagram, or, I don't know, this might actually be, Twitter. But anyway, he posted, no, this is definitely, but he posted, nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year. A sort of aperitif to the DCU, and then a deeper dive into the universe of Superman Legacy after that. It's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time, but I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in the DCU since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and yes, some actors will be playing characters they've played in other stories, and some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of films, shows, and animated projects that have come from DC in the past, but nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also went on to confirm that Zolo Maduria, I'm just not going to get that name right. James Gunn confirmed he's going to continue as Blue Beetle. Viola Davis will continue as Amanda Waller, and John Cena will continue as Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And that's all he said at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see when they actually really start cooking with this new DC universe. But man, I mean, and you can't even if this is a colossal failure, you can't even really blame Gunn because man, what a mess DC has been for a while now. You know, a good while now. With like they were kind of doing their own thing, and then they tried to compete with the MCU, and they just fell to pieces.
Oh yeah. I saw like on Twitter, you know, like oh, what's his name? Like he wrote the screenplay, I think, for David Goyer, I think, was on Twitter saying like, you know, like they wanted to do a more direct follow-up to
Man of Steel.
To Man of Steel. Yeah, they wanted to do like an actual Man of Steel 2, but Warner Brothers execs were like hammering them saying, we need our MCU. We need our MCU right now. We need to do the MCU.
Yeah.
And so they rushed into a shared universe, half-cocked and unprepared, without any of the preparation that Marvel did on their end when building out their universe.
Yeah.
And this is the result. You know, like a total mess that, you know, we had to like soft reboot multiple times. Now we have to do another full reboot. And now they are decades behind Marvel now.
Yeah. Way behind. And they probably just shouldn't have even attempted to compete with them in the first place.
No.
They should have just did their own thing that they were doing before. Because they were very successful with like the Nolan trilogy of the Batman movies and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
They didn't really need to follow Marvel's footsteps, but they did, and they went right off a cliff.
Yeah, they did. It was bad.
So the last thing I'm going to say about this movie before we leave is that it was directed by Andy Muschietti, who did the It movies, the new ones, not the miniseries from the 80s, but the new ones.
Yeah.
And he's also set to direct The Brave and the Bold, which is the Batman movie.
For the DCU.
Yes.
Yes.
For the actual DCU. How do you feel about that? Having watched this movie, you know, taking in all the context of all the problems this movie had that aren't his fault?
I feel fine, mostly because, like, I think he pretty much, like, nailed Batman in this. Like, both, both Ben Affleck and, Michael Keaton were great, in this film. You know, so I think he mostly nailed Batman, and also, like, a Batman film should be, like, less reliant on CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're probably not gonna get, like, a full CGI in a Batman movie, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope.
So, you know, I remain optimistic. It remains to be seen how it will actually turn out. So, but I'm keeping an open mind.
He did pretty well with character dynamics. It felt like he wasn't able to use that as much because the plot had to just keep moving forward.
Yes.
And as a result, like, you would introduce characters. It's like, oh, what's this guy's deal? Like, let's meet this character. It's like, nope, gone. And that happened quite a few times throughout the course of the movie, including, you know, his parents. And it looked like, oh, we're going to get some time with his parents. Nope, move on, you know? So I think that might be a good benefit for doing this particular Batman story, as we know it's going to be about, Bruce Wayne and, Damian Wayne, is it?
Yeah, Damian Wayne. Yeah, he's the son of, Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul.
I had forgotten if it was Damon or Damian, so.
It's Damian.
Yeah, so like the kind of relationship between Bruce and Damian is, you know, I think it looks like this director might have a good handle for that, but it's hard to tell because this is a good example of movie by committee, in a sense. The Flash, it sounds like a lot of changes were made without the director's consent, probably without the director's knowledge, some of them towards the end, I imagine. And so many other issues that came up around this. This was such a huge mess of a movie, but at least you can say at the end of the day that it was a pretty fun mess.
Right, yeah.
Which you can't say about Black Adam.
I haven't watched Black Adam, so I don't have an opinion on that, but like overall this was a fun mess. Yeah, I'll agree with that, for sure. I didn't, like, hate this movie as much as I was expecting to, based on, like, a lot of the impressions that came out after the movie came out.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just an example of, like, it got way too much hate than what it actually deserved, but that doesn't mean it deserved praise.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not a great movie by any stretch.
Yeah, but at least it's not boring.
Yes.
That is it for our discussion of The Flash. That ends our full spoiler segment and our podcast for this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about Cyberpunk Edge Runners. No, there is not a new season. This came out over a year ago, but man, there's some Cyberpunk stuff going on right now, and it made me want to rewatch it.
We should call it, the total screen catch-up.
But spelled like the condiment.
Yes. Obviously.
But yeah, so Will had never gotten around to seeing Edge Runners, just with so much stuff on. It just slipped past. And I've been wanting to rewatch it because there's lots of Cyberpunk stuff going on right now. I got an audiobook sitting in my queue from Audible that's officially part of the universe. Then there's the Phantom Liberty DLC, which just came out and still haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. But I'm in a very Cyberpunk mood. And I said, why don't we finally cover Edge Runners? So I'm excited to do that, and that is what we're going to be doing next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to the website and click on a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom of that article. You're going to see all of our relevant links in the final paragraph, so you can get to our SoundCloud page, to our official Twitter and Facebook accounts, everything. It's all there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.